Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you. First, I'd like to apologize for the brief wait between videos. In all honesty, I was just enjoying my vacation. Had a blast. Didn't go anywhere, but hey, sometimes a staycation is all you need, right? Anywho, as promised, the next video I intended to do was the second installment of HeroClix 101. This time around, we'll be talking about non-basic dials. Now, first off, we're going to talk about non-basic character dials. To start things off, we'll show off the dual base figure. Now, dual bases are largely used anymore for duo figures, as you can see here, with this being Titania and the Absorbing Man. However, they were initially used for the first run of transporter characters, which were characters who could carry others and also attack. But anywho, largely it's to show a character that's slightly larger, or two characters. The same basic rules apply, except that you have two squares that you can draw lines of fire from, as opposed to just one, or draw lines of fire two as well. Also, there are a lot more possible squares that they can be adjacent to, which can really help in some respects. Now, Absorbing Man and Titania have quite a bit going for them. First off, they have what's called, as shown by their character card here, they have improved movement, as you can see at the top, wherein they ignore hindering terrain and characters, which that can be a very big thing with these two, because they're a close combat piece. They're all about charging in. They also have two traits. First off, Wreckage. When they KO an opposing character, you roll a 6-sided die. On a 3 or 4, place a standard light object in the square that character occupied. On a 5 or 6, place a standard heavy object. The object tokens that will be gotten to at a later date. Strongest couple there is. Absorbing Man and Titania can use Plasticity and Super Strength. They may pick up and hold up to 2 standard objects at the same time. They may choose to use 0, 1, or 2 objects during each close combat attack they make. Basically, usually a character with Super Strength can only carry 1 object at a time. However, they can carry 2. There are others that can do the same thing, but again, only standard objects. But they have, of course, the duo attack ability. They also have the Indomitable ability, so they don't take pushing damage. Anywho, and as they are duo, they can be split up into their own, or their singular versions. Anyways, moving on. Next up, we have Colossals. Now, there are 2 classes of Colossals. First off, you have the smaller 2x2 based Colossals, which have been colloquially referred to as Big Figs by some people. This is the Alpha Class Sentinel from the Days of Future Past box set. I've picked its more offensive add-ons for how it would look. Now this bad boy has 3 different costs: 350 points, 250 points, or 150 points. He's got traits, he's got all manner of stuff, and as such, he can, for one thing, there are 4 dials that lines of fire can be drawn from or to with him, and he's also adjacent to quite a few squares as well. Now, moving on to true Colossals. Now, these guys are not entirely common. In fact, the first few true Colossals, which generally are on a 3x6 base, they were usually available only as tournament prizes or convention exclusives, such as this bad boy right here, this DC Comics The Spectre. This is the first true colossal that was based on a DC character, and one of the few that actually exists really. But now, true colossals have at least three character dials to basically and costs. For the Spectre, you have let's see. For the Spectre, you have a 600 point dial, which is his rookie Hal Jordan dial. 1,200 points is the Jim Corrigan or Classic Spectre dial, and then the 1,800 point Spirit of Vengeance. He also has an additional dial which allows him, is for the scenario that comes with him, that allows him to place Angry Spirit tokens. Now, the first Colossals, the first few Galactus versions, the Spectre, also came with specialized rule sheets, which would basically tell you how to run a specific scenario for the character. As these were very non-standard characters, there were special rules. Now, one cool thing is that these larger, at least the Spectre and quite possibly other, and I know also the first two versions of Galactus, I presume others of the same size, have the ability called multi-attack. Multi-attack, you give a character a power action. Again, that's something that we got into later. They use 2 free actions against up to 2 targets. These free actions consist of power actions, close combat actions, and ranged combat actions. Though free actions gained from this power cannot be used to activate this power. Make an attack roll for each attack, if any. Any damage dealt by one of these attacks is reduced by 1, minimum of 1 damage. It cannot be countered or lost. So that's a pretty big deal right there. Now, there are other non-basic character dials that have been released. The two of note that come to mind being a pair of 2x2 dials, the world's finest brick figure from the Crisis set, which was a duo figure of Batman and Superman, and it was a highly sought after figure, actually. Like it's on a 2x2 dial and basically shows off the best of both of them. Then there was also the Clown Prince of Crime, which was again a 2x2 dial with the Joker, but it had basically 3 Joker dials on one, and it was possible to go between them, which that's actually kind of a neat concept. Sadly, I've never had the opportunity to use the figure, but hopefully maybe someday. Now, non-character dials, which are definitively non-basic dials. First off, let's talk vehicles. Vehicles recently got were released in a big way. The first vehicle was, of course, Thor's Mighty Chariot, which was on a 2x2 dial and had Thor, his chariot, and the 2 goats that pull it. Then the Batman set in 2012 brought us vehicles, as did its sister set, Streets of Gotham. Now, Streets of Gotham, as a smaller set, only had dual base motorcycle vehicles. There were 3: Bat Cycle, the Robin Cycle, as seen here, and the GCPD motorcycle. Now, let's talk about first off. The Robin Cycle instead of, for a defensive symbol, it has the vehicle side, which is a steering wheel. You really can't see, it's a bit blurry, but it's there. Now, vehicles have their own special rules, which are explained on the card. A vehicle is marked by the vehicle defense symbol. They can be played in one of two modes, autopilot or piloted. In the case of the motorcycles, it's just with two separate costs and different starting lines. If you pick pilot, you must choose, first off, you must choose which mode the vehicle will be played in when building your force. Makes sense. A vehicle can use the carry ability, but does not modify its speed value from it, and can carry up to the maximum number of friendly turns indicated on the base next to the passenger symbol. Now, in the case of the Robin cycle, if it's on autopilot, it can carry 2 passengers. If it's piloted, it can carry 1 passenger, which, either way, perfect sense. When using the character ability, vehicles ignore the combat symbols of friendly characters. Vehicles can use improved movement, ignore hindering terrain, and ignore characters. They can make ranged combat attacks against opposing characters to whom it can draw a line of fire, even when it is adjacent to an opposing character. It cannot be dealt damage through the mastermind power. Again, that's a lot of that is stuff that will be gone into at a later date. Now, autopiloted vehicles. A vehicle in autopilot mode is given an action. After it resolves, the vehicle made an attack during that action. It gets dealt one unavoidable damage. Piloted vehicles. Now, a friendly character adjacent to a vehicle in piloted mode can be given a free action to become the vehicle's pilot, unless the character is a vehicle or has Battle Fury showing on their dial. A vehicle in piloted mode may only have 1 pilot at a time. Well, hey, that makes sense, you know. A character who becomes a vehicle's pilot is removed from the battlefield and placed on the character card. All of a pilot's powers and abilities are ignored unless the game effect specifies it activates when the character is a pilot. When a character becomes a pilot, the vehicle may not be given an action until your next turn. The vehicle may have additional traits called pilot abilities. When a pilot matches any prerequisite listed for a pilot ability, the vehicle possesses that trait. Now, the Robin cycle does have pilot abilities. First off, we have the Bat computer-assisted target detection. Prerequisites being the Batman team ability or the Titan's team ability, which Titan's team ability is actually what the Robin cycle has as a team ability. It can use enhancements, and also Perplex, but can only modify its own attack and range values when using Perplex. Tear gas canisters. Prerequisites being Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Robin, or Robin. The Robin cycle can use Incapacitate, and when it does so, the attack hits on the result of the attack is doubles. You may also place an action token on one opposing a character adjacent to the target. So, not bad for this. Which also, I might add, the point values on the Robin cycle are 34 for autopilot and 41 piloted. Now, the Batman set itself had full-size vehicles. And as the set was called Batman, well, of course, one of the major vehicles was this. The Batmobile. The Bat vehicle. First off, it's a unique, meaning you can have one end play at a time and that's it. Its point values are 64 points autopilot and 119 points piloted. It has the Batman team ability, as you might expect, given that it is, the Batmobile. Now, one major difference between these is the fact that, between full-size vehicles and motorcycle, well, the double-base vehicles, is that they have 2 separate dials for pilot and autopilot. Now, on autopilot, Batmobile can hold 4 passengers and then 3 when piloted. It also has a range of 4 when piloted. When on autopilot, it has 0 range, however. Now, of course, it's got special powers and various other powers. Now, larger vehicles. In fact, let's see if this holds true with. Actually, vehicles in general. First off, yes, a pilot can eject from a vehicle and return to the battlefield by itself. That's a free action. Also, when a vehicle is KO'd, it is considered to be wrecked. Har har. When a vehicle is wrecked, it is defeated, but the figure remains on the battlefield. All powers, abilities, and values are ignored and is considered an ultra heavy object until the end of the game. Now, an ultra heavy object cannot be picked up by a character. Period. End of discussion. If a vehicle has a pilot when it's wrecked, the pilot immediately ejects into a square of its controller's choosing and is dealt 1 unavoidable damage. Now, vehicles can also use the ram ability, and it doesn't really make sense with motorcycles. Well, I guess it could make a little bit of sense, but well, suicide runs, right? Actually, at least both the Batmobile and the Batmobile have the ram ability. It can give the vehicle a move action, and they only move along a straight horizontal or vertical path, and it cannot change its orientation. After action resolved, make a close combat attack as a free action that targets all opposing characters that were moved through. Each hit character is dealt this character's damage value and deal this figure 1 unavoidable damage for each 100 points of characters dealt damage during the movement. Okay, that actually does kind of make sense. Basically, it's running people over. Okay. Seems legit. Now, moving on. Team dials. Team dials were recently introduced in the Wolverine and the X-Men set that came out last summer. Now, a team dial basically takes an iconic lineup for a team and, as you can see, puts them all on one base. Now, first off, each of these figures can be removed, and in fact can be used without even bothering to use the team base. Now, team dials come into play with 3 point values. In the case of the X-Men Blue Strike Force, the point values are 565, 265, and 165. Now, it might come off as a bit strange when other things such as the Colossals have even 100 point. There are quite a few things that have even 100 point values that are such as Colossals. Well, the thing with the team bases is that you basically add 5 points to the team dial, or to the cost of the team dial for each character on it. So, the Blue Strike Force has a total of 7 characters. So if they're all there, that's 35 points right there, which would make the point cost instead 600, 300, and 200. Now, characters can be removed and have solo adventures and be put back on their regular dial, like so. And then they can also return to the dial. Now, you cannot have a number. Basically, the points, total points of your characters from the team dial that are doing solo adventures cannot exceed the point cost of the team dial itself. So, if you're starting this with if you're going for 600.1, you cannot exceed. I believe the printed value of 565 points. Now, first off, team dials have on one end a regular dial. This is basically say, hey, combat values. They also have a resource dial. Now, the resource dial, the asset dial. The asset dial is on the opposite end as the stats, and basically shows the head of 1 to 2 members of the team, and allows certain powers and abilities to be used, or special versions of certain powers and abilities, when that character is showing on the asset dial, and when they have to also be on the team dial to use that. For example, the first one is Beast. So let's say Beast is on here. Means that the X-Men Blue Strike Force can use combat reflexes. That's fairly useful right there. Asset abilities can be countered as if they were a combat ability, such as throughout wit. At the end of the turn, you may roll a six-sided die and turn the asset dial that many turns to the left. If the team dial icon is showing at the end of your turn, this roll is required. Now, first off, the asset dial begins on a specific starting line regardless of the point cost. When asset icons appear, the team can use the asset ability reference so long as the corresponding team is attached. Dials recovered. When the team base icon appears, you may choose any team member attached to the team and use the asset ability granted by that character's icon. Also, there are potential special powers that can show. In the case of X-Men Blue Strike Force, we have the X-Men have faced losses before. When another character began the game on this team base is KO'd by an opponent's attack, you may roll a d6 that can't be re-rolled. On a result of 5 or 6, take an extra turn after this one. Very cool. Also, the team base has 2 traits. One is more a family than a team. You may give it a power action, and this during the turn modify the attack value of a friendly character with the X-Men keyword by +1 when attacking a character without the X-Men keyword. That could be useful. Then we have Executioner's Song, named for the 12-part crossover from 1992, if I remember correctly. Give the team a free action. Remove a character from the team base and remove it from the game. Unless your next attack roll with this team is a critical miss, the result becomes 11 and can't be re-rolled. That's not bad. Now, there are 2 types of team dials. This is a 2x4 one, and 2x4 team bases have generally 5 to 7 members on them. There are also 2x2 teams, which for smaller teams, which usually have 4 or less members. Excuse me. Sorry about that, everybody. Sadly, I don't have any of the smaller team dials to show off, but there are a few that exist. Hellfire Club Inner Circle, the Brotherhood of Mutants, Red Hood and the Outlaws, so on and so forth. Now, also, it should be noted that the 2x4 size of the large team dials is the same dial size used for larger vehicles, such as the Batmobile. Now, finally, the last non-basic dial. A resource dial. This is the utility belt. It was a participation prize from the No Man's Land storyline event a few years back. Now, a resource dial has a card. Just basically explains how it works. For example, the cost and and assignments and so on and so forth. Now, for the utility belt, the cost is 7 points, plus 1 point of the costume slot is active, this being the costume slot. And currently, if it were being played, it is active with the Batman cowl in it. Plus 1 point for utility belt item slot that will be active this game. Other slots are inactive. At least one utility belt item slot must be active. Now, given what I have here, there would be 7 for the dial itself, 1 more for the costume, and then we have 5 utility belt slots, so that's going to be 13. Now, you assign the utility belt to a character when you build your force, and only that character can use its effects. When the assigned character is KO'd, the opponent scores the utility belt. It begin now when the beginning of the game, the utility belt starts on the green line. After forces are removed, attach up to one utility belt costume if the costume slot is active, and as many utility belt items as there are active slots. No more than 3 of any specific utility belt item. The utility belt has no KO click and may rotate past the starting line. Turning the dial. At the end of your turn, the assigned character was given a non-free action. Roll a d6, a 6-sided die that can't be re-rolled, and turn the utility belt to the right that many times. If special power is revealed while turning the dial, immediately stop turning the dial. Using effects. All costumes and items grant the character powers and abilities that can be used as directed by their resource cards. Once a utility belt item has been used, it is removed from the utility belt. So let's talk about those special powers. First off, we have the trait icon of Battle Plan. If 3 or more utility belt icons are attached, a assigned character can use Indomitable. If 5 or more items are attached, you may give the assigned character a free action and select an opposing character within 10 squares and line of fire. That opposing character can't use team abilities until the beginning of your turn. Prep time. Special power number 1. Give the assigned power character a double power action and turn the utility belt to any click that does not have a special power. Do not otherwise turn the dial at the end of your turn. Okay. 2. Shared resources. Give the assigned character a power action. Remove a utility belt item from the utility belt and place it in an adjacent square. Flip that item's resource card. That item is now a relic assigned to your force. Now, to clarify, this is the card for the gas pellets / smoke grenades. This is how it appears as a utility belt item. When when using the shared resources power, it flips over to this side, which is the relic side of it. Moving on, hidden cache number 3. At the beginning of your turn, you may activate an inactive slot. In addition, you may replace or attach any one utility belt item or costume to the utility belt. At the end of the turn, roll a 6-sided die to turn the dial as described above, even if the character does not take a non-free action. And finally, number 4, quick swap. Give the assigned character a power action and replace any number of attached utility belt items with different utility belt items. And by the way, there are about a dozen different utility belt items that exist, including bat shark repellent spray. Yeah, wrap your head around that one right quick. Now, there are also standard powers which appear on the belt: Outwit, Exploit Weakness, Perplex, Smoke Cloud, Leap Climb, Close Combat Expert, and Super Senses. Now, when the number is revealed, if you utility belt, as when turning the dial, if a number is revealed that is not circled as though like the special power numbers are, if you utility belt item in that slot is used this turn, it is not removed from the utility belt. So, say I come upon one for says slot 3, and I use the grapple gun, which is what's in slot 3. But hey, the number 3 pops up when rolling the die. Popped up when I turn the dial, so it does not get removed. I can still use it. Next up, we have the second icon for the resource dial, which is a box with a parachute. When a number is revealed, if that slot is active but empty, at the beginning of your turn, you may attach any utility belt item to this slot. Okay. Then we have the ×2. When numbers are revealed, if the character uses a utility belt item in the indicated slots, it may use an item in the other slot as a free action as long as the 2 items are not the same. Alternatively, a power and a modifier may be revealed. The character can use the power showing and modifies all of its combat values by the amount displayed. Right off the bat, we have a +1, so modifies combat values by +1 for. And we also have showing we have the prep time. Okay. Now, costumes. This is the card for the Batman Cowl costume. And yes, it can be flipped over as such, be a relic. Now, what effects does the cowl have? This character possesses the Batman team ability. if the character already possesses the Batman team ability and is adjacent to a wall or a square of a higher elevated terrain, lines of fire drawn to it are blocked when it is not your turn. That's really good. That's super stealth right there. So, anyways, that is resource styles. Other ones that exist include the Bat Cave, the Book of the Skull from Fear itself, the Infinity Gauntlets from the Infinity Gauntlet, and actually, I think that may be all of them. Anywho, that's all I got. We'll be back next week. We'll be back to our scheduled broadcasting lineup next week. And so, as always, like, share, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Check out the channel's Facebook page. Links to both of which are down below, as always. And live long and rock hard.